Truth on the map from reality shows to drama scenes. She's spilling it all, no in between. Talking smack, that's the game. Aymack's here, throwing flames. If you want the scoop, come on in. She's the queen of the scene, let the fun begin. Movies, hard documentaries too. Aymack's got the facts, breaking it through with the wit so sharp and a style so bold. Every story's hot, every truth retold. Talking smack, that's the way. Aymack's taking center stage today. For laughs and gasps, look no more. Aymack talking smack, the truth's at the door. Documentaries too. Aymack's got the facts, breaking it through with a wit so sharp and a style so bold. Every story's hot, every truth retold. Talking stack, that's the way. Aymack's taking center stage today. For laughs and gasps, look no more. Aymack talking smack, the truth's at the door.
What is up? Oh, I'm Tiny. Excuse me. Hello. How's it going, guys? Oh, thanks for being here. I hope everybody's okay after that HOA meeting. That was rough. Lots of fines got handed out. I know Nonsense just went live to air her grievances about her fines. If you didn't hear, I will play for you guys when I was actually cleaning and stuff and I heard my fine get announced.
I want to let it be known that aymackk, SoFlo Mama, and Lindsay Lee, they've just been out here trolling the fuck out of the streets. So they absolutely each have racked up about $15,000 in fines.
$15,000, guys. I think I need a GoFundMe. What do you guys think? Oh, Steph B, thank you. Yes, hit the thumbs up if you haven't. Grandma, Roro. Hey, GP. Hey, Mystery. Thanks for being here. Twist. Twist looks like Twist looks like they have the balls. They brought the balls. Hey, Cheese. What's up? Hey, Nicole B. Trying to get hers reduced. I might have to. Oh, no worries. Yeah, no worries. This will be kind of a more listen. It's very listen friendly because we will be listening to a podcast that does a deep dive on the murders of Biggie and Tupac. This is part 2. Dos. So it will kind of recap what we just went over, but basically we've gotten to how Biggie and Tupac were signed to their respective record labels. I want to say we went over when Tupac was shot in the lobby and he basically blamed Puffy and Biggie for it. The HOA says no GoFundMe though? Ugh. Well, that's not fair. How are we supposed to pay these fines? Just kidding. Alrighty, so let's... Okay, now I want to be tiny. And overlay. viewer discretion advised. That's why I have my Sir Pac flipping people off so they know we mean business up in here. So again, this is Last Podcast on the Left. They are comedy / true crime. So you'll hear 3 voices. The most important voice is Marcus. He is the one narrating. So he took 2 books. He does a lot of work. He makes like these crazy ass outlines. So he's who we want to follow. And I will try and recap what he is saying because that is Marcus. Henry, who does the voices. Hey, Road Rash. Henry, who has like the higher pitched voice, and he does a lot of like different voices. Him and Ben are comedians, so they get off on these crazy tangents all the time. So I will try and rein us back in, but they are funny. Their humor is not for everybody, so their views and opinions are not my own. Just so you are aware, they do get a little raunchy. I would not play this around children. Okay? All right, here we go.
Biggie and Tupac. Great reception for the first one.
Yes.
Which is so nice to hear. So thank you for all the positive feedback.
Well, I did also get some negative feedback.
Well, there was a small correction that has to be made, but that's okay.
Little correction up top. Puff Daddy was...
Can you guys hear that okay? And Cheese, the correction is not the correction you made. I will still research that side of things. But can you guys hear the audio? Okay, thank you, Miss Nicole B. Hey, Summer. All right, here we go.
not the son of Frank Lucas, all right? Puffy's dad, Melvin Combs, worked for Frank Lucas and was killed in a drug deal gone bad when Puffy was 3. I made a mistake, okay?
We're out here fucking on the front lines of the podcast wars going on right now. Nobody understands that. We got shots coming our way, so we got to take shots going their way, man, because I am too real to be corrected.
Yes.
So podcast wars sound funny, but aren't we all in like YouTube wars? Which sounds so silly. Like on the front lines of the podcast wars.
Nothing less physically violent than a podcast feud. We are not exactly none of us are a mobile people. We are sitters.
Is there anything
sorry.
more mentally violent than a 1-star review on iTunes?
All right, let's do this.
So when we
Is
last
there anything more mentally violent than a dumbass comment?
left our protagonists, Suge Knight and Tupac, had just made a deal to spring Tupac from jail in exchange for 3 albums on Death Row Records.
So remember, Tupac came from a
What
world
up,
of being
Andy?
like a street poet.
Right.
Thug life was about uniting the gangs.
Oh yeah, so we found out that Thug Life was more or less the HOA for the gangs. Okay?
But see, when he came out of jail, his whole shit had changed. He become very hardcore,
Right?
Because he saw something in jail and it changed him, and he came out swinging hard. And now he has his back, and it's kind of like making him feel very, very confident. The two of them are kind of a chicken and the egg scenario of who's making who worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
And meanwhile,
Okay, she says, I'm 100% positive about Drasta and BG Knock out being from Nutty Block Crib, Compton, not Jordan Downs. Oh, okay. Okay. See, that's way too deep into this for me. Say, huh? What we hiding?
Suge Knight's criminality was only getting bolder. In 1994, Suge allegedly directed his entourage to stomp a Rollin' 60s Crip to death during a death row party at the El Rey Theater, where we had our Halloween show last year.
No kidding. Wow, I didn't realize that was also the location for a stomp to death.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Okay,
wild.
let's-
That's
His entourage.
I'm going to rewind because I wasn't paying it. I was being bad and not paying attention. Okay.
street poet.
Right.
Thug Life was about uniting the gangs. But see, when he came out of jail, his whole shit had changed. He become very hardcore.
Right.
Because he saw something in jail and it changed him, and he came out swinging hard, and now he has his back and is kind of like making him feel very, very confident. The two of them are
So this is Tupac. Him and Suge, he gets out of prison, and him and Suge are like thick as thieves.
kind of a chicken and the egg scenario of who's making who worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Suge Knight's criminality was only getting bolder. In 1994, Suge allegedly directed his entourage to stomp a Rollin' 60s Crip to death during a death row party at the El Rey Theater, where we had our Halloween show last year.
No kidding. Wow, I didn't realize that was also the
So that's
location for a
super violent and rude of Suge.
stomp to death.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
That's this girl.
Do they usually give the directive? I know there's a lot of directives to harm somebody. I didn't realize they actually articulated exactly how to do it.
Well, it was just pretty much get him.
Okay.
Get him and get it.
get
Usually,
him,
like get
fuck.
him in that context means stomp him to death.
So, and of course, stomping someone to death is when you bring a bunch of steel garbage cans together and you got a bunch of broomsticks. It sounds really good.
Yeah.
That's a little
You
reference
have to
to
be,
stomp.
because stomp is an hour and 45 minutes long.
Yes.
Then, in 1995, Suge beat and tortured a record promoter named Mark Anthony Bell during a Christmas party at Suge's home. Bell was held captive in a room in Suge's house and was beat senseless by Suge's crew before being allegedly forced to drink Suge's piss from a
What?
champagne flute.
What? No. That sounds fucking miserable.
Honestly, set the scene, right?
Set the scene.
Like music's playing. It's nice little party and stuff. Suge's in
Nice
the back.
little
He's
party.
got a Santa hat on. They're all drinking eggnog. And this is kind of true. They had it. I'm certain they had they had like liquor in it, but it was eggnog.
I think you're kind of Griswolding up the scene here a little bit. Kind of Griswolding it up.
There's a lot of Griswold imagery in this story.
Okay.
So he sees Mark Anthony Bell walks in. He's like, "We gotta go. We're gonna get him. He's gonna bring us to Puffy." They bring him to which is Suge's main MO, right? Bring him to another location. And what did we learn on our podcast?
Never go to a second location. I hope all y'all bitches out there know that. Why is it not playing? Why did it stop playing? Okay, hold on.
Never go to a second location.
Never do it.
He said, "Come, we're gonna go talk with you and my boys. We're gonna go talk up in my upstairs bedroom." They go in that bedroom. They tie him to a chair. They start wailing on him.
Jesus.
All of a sudden, Suge goes in the room. And now this is according to Suge. After jail, what he said, he's like, "Yeah, it's like a lot of people say that we tortured Mark Anthony Bell, but actually, I mean, like, all we did was hit him a couple times and make him drink a little pee. That's all we did." And so he went and he filled a champagne flute filled with his own urine, which
Just
is
make him-
difficult. If anybody's ever
Right.
been on a road trip and tried to fill him.
Sorry. Just make him drink a little pee. I'm trying to use my phone as a remote for Spotify, and it's being stupid as F. Okay, here we go. It's not working. Okay. Okay. Let me
Beer
guess.
bottle with piss, like in the scene from Dumber and Dumber. It's difficult to know the levels. It shows he's done this before.
He's an expert in it. Huh? Oh, right.
Yeah, so and then they made him drink the pee,
Okay.
which is just like that's very humiliating.
I think we could call it torture. I
Yeah.
think.
Oh, we can definitely call it torture. And the guy himself, he said that he did not drink pee. He tried to jump off the balcony. They did bring out a champagne flute full of piss.
Okay.
No matter what. Everyone
That's
agrees
for
that there was
sure.
a champagne flute full of piss involved
Oh.
in here somewhere. But the guy, Mark Anthony Bell, said he tried jumping off the balcony. So he never drank the piss,
Hey,
but they
Jonesy.
did beat the fuck out of
All
him.
right. How high up?
Okay, so everybody agrees there was a champagne flute full of someone's urine, but questionable if the guy drank it. Okay.
Were they there? Third, second floor?
Probably second or
okay,
third
so he
floor,
could have
yeah.
jumped over it.
Yeah, and this whole disgusting incident happened because Suge believed that Bell knew who was responsible for the death of a close friend and associate of Suge's, a bodyguard named Jake Robles.
Okay.
3 months months before this incident, the Death Row and Big Boy crews had run into each other at the Platinum Club in Atlanta. Before the fight was over and done with, Jake Robles was shot and killed. Now, virtually nothing is known to us as to who the actual culprit was, if it was an order that was given to attack Death Row staff, or if the whole thing was just a simple confrontation that got out of hand, as these things sometimes do.
All right.
But one thing was for sure. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry now officially had a body count.
Also, if you want to count the fact that Suge gave Eazy-E AIDS, slipping him a hypodermic needle when they had that meeting trying to figure out the all the shit with fucking Ruthless Records.
Did that happen?
It's rumored that that Suge Knight brought a hypodermic. It's not true.
Okay, so at this point, like Marcus said, the East Coast West Coast rivalry officially had a body count. Someone has lost their life due to this stupid ass shit they were doing. And like they said in the first episode, Biggie and Tupac were more or less, I mean, Tupac was kind of like about that life. But Biggie was just a kid that wanted to rap, you know? And they just ended up in a whole bunch of shit and losing their lives.
It's not. That's a rumor, though.
No, man. I will say this about this whole story. If you want to get deep into the conspiracy theory surrounding the death of Biggie and Tupac, it is deep and it is long. And everyone's done it. And everyone's still alive.
It's amazing how deep conspiracy theories can go, you know, because it's all people making things up. And then you can just do that forever. You can, like, that's what...
Yes, and Pac was intelligent. I think he, like, got into Juilliard, right? I think we talked about that the last time. But, yeah, he, like, got into Juilliard. He was just, unfortunately, kind of caught up in the, you know, the drug selling life and stuff like that because his mom was kind of in that arena. She was a fucking Black Panther. Crazy.
That's the thing with conspiracy theories. There's a lot of data. Very little truth. Interesting, though.
Well, the thing is about the Jake Robles murder, Suge Knight fully believed that the person who gave the order to shoot was Sean Puffy Combs.
Okay.
Now, as we said...
Okay, so Jake Robles... Let's rewind that.
But that's the thing with conspiracy theories. There's a lot of data. Very little truth. Interesting, though.
Well, the thing is about the Jake Robles murder, Suge Knight fully believed that the person who gave the order to shoot was Sean Puffy Combs.
Okay, so Suge believes that Sean Puffy Combs ordered the hit on that guy. Suge Knight's close friend. Okay. I want to refer to him forever as Sugar Bear. Sugar Bear.
Now, as we said at the top of the last episode, the Biggie and Tupac murders are essentially solved cold cases, meaning investigators know who did it and know who was responsible, but were never able to gather enough evidence to prove it in a court of law.
It's so interesting, though, because wasn't Puffy's brand, like, the nice one? Wasn't he considered, like, the nicer
now
rapper?
it is.
But wasn't
Now
that
it
back?
is.
I don't remember it.
Okay, so this is kind of funny. This didn't age well. So these episodes were released in 2018. So obviously now Puffy. Why do all of their names end with E? Hey, Grandma. Thanks for being here. Yeah, he was kind of like the wholesome, like, always dancing, you know, in someone else's video, but yikes. Didn't age well.
I just remember him with Mace, and who became a preacher. Like, I never remembered Puffy being tough, but...
Because this was the first chapter of the rap that got to us. Okay?
Right.
Where it's like when we really absorbed Puffy, it was him doing the shoulder dance and like the white silver shoot and the mirror tunnel and all that shit. But before that, he was hardcore.
Okay.
And especially because of Suge, he had to present himself as even more hardcore than he wanted to because Suge actually meant violence.
Right.
Like he was surrounding himself with crews because he came from the MOB. Like he was actually fully involved with the Bloods, and Puffy had to figure out how to compete, and also for marketing's sake, he had to appear very, very tough.
Right. Well, I mean, he definitely gives more depth to his character because, you know, now he's like, I'm sure he's had some meetings where it's like, you think I'm the guy from the reality show? Let me tell you a little story about Puff Daddy. And then I'm sure it gets very, very horrified at that point.
Remember the diary show? This is the diary of Britney Spears. You think you know, but you have no idea.
Now, the thing is about this case is the reason why there was never enough evidence to prove it in a court of law, because, of course, when it comes to criminal cases, there's what you know and what you can prove.
Right.
And those are two very different things.
Yes.
And the reason why it never came to court was because there was no follow-through. And that's also why the vast majority of people still believe that these murders are such a huge mystery.
Right.
And so because of that, we've got 3 stories to tell. The murders,
3 stories, okay?
the investigation, and why that follow-through didn't happen.
All right.
Now, the investigation that cracked things wide open was not the original. The original Biggie investigation was headed up partly by a decorated
Hey, Eric.
officer named Russell Poole, who, while being a fantastic cop and very good at his job, he unfortunately lost the plot when he became convinced the murder was a wide-reaching conspiracy involving the LAPD.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like when Philip K. Dick went insane, right? When he went insane because of his brain tumor. He had an aneurysm and he went nuts. He went insane in the coolest way possible because he was a brilliant sci-fi writer,
Right.
and he went down to the depths of his own mind, and he was using his brilliant fictional brain to try to figure out what was happening to him in reality, and it created the Valis trilogy, which is obvious for me the peak of sci-fi, right? I fucking love it. Russell Poole was
I'm
such
so
a
happy
good
you
cop.
somehow got to Philip K. Dick in our Biggie and Tupac scene.
Okay, honestly, sometimes Henry's tangents, my ADD's like, where are we going? So I apologize. Let's try and rein it back in. We'll figure out where Marcus was going.
Congratulations.
I have to-
That is
I
a
have to
nerd
bring it to
leap.
me.
That is wow.
I have to bring it back to a way I can understand. But Russell Poole is like that. He was such a good cop.
Right.
He began to investigate himself.
That is
It was like he eventually at some
Right.
point Russell Poole was like, maybe I did this. And
Wow.
I have to investigate this to see maybe if I did it. And he went all the way down, like the picture of Charlie Day from Always Sunny with the fucking yarn lines
Yeah,
and the whole
right.
conspiracy thing. That was him.
The murder board. We did one of those with Ellen.
And Labyrinth is his book that he wrote is good to see what it's like to see a man incept himself
Oh,
into
goodness
police
gracious.
conspiracy, but it's also throws you off the track of what really happened with Biggie and Tupac.
I didn't realize. So a actual police officer was the first one to come up with this conspiracy that the
Yes.
LAPD was involved. That's pretty fascinating. Usually it's someone who looks like Henry who is just constantly outside.
So, mystery, this podcast is, so there's 3 voices you're hearing. There's Marcus, who is narrating the facts. He creates these really crazy outlines of, whatever episodes they're covering. So he's the one with the information that, he has the actual information. The other 2 that get off on tangents and kind of distract me, but they are funny. That's Ben Kissel and Henry Zabrowski. You know what? I kind of want to, just because I'm a visual person, and let me see if I can pull up what these guys look like, just so you can kind of get a feel. Ben, who is the deeper voice, he is no longer in Last Podcast on the Left, which is a story for another day. I can totally go over that one day, because like I said, it is crazy. All right, let's see. Share this tab, take off my overlay. Okay, let me make this bigger. Okay, so this tall ass guy is Ben Kissel. So he is the kind of deeper, goofier voice. This is Henry Zabrowski. He's the, kind of higher pitched. He does a lot of the different accents. And then that is Marcus. He does the information. He basically gets all the information, absorbs it, creates outlines, like scripts. Basically, he writes a script for every episode that they do based on the subject. So it is a lot of good information. These two make it sometimes hard to stay focused because they get off on tangents, but I find them funny. So that is them. Little intro. All right. Let me get my shiz back up and we're gonna do this. Okay. How you guys doing? They remind me of Opie and Anthony. Okay. So they're not directly connected. Marcus is basing this off of, he cited two sources, two books, Murder Rap and Original Gangsters, I think. Yeah, of course, Buttercup. Stay as long as you want. This is a good kind of listen episode. I won't be offended if you guys are, just in the bushes, because it is just mainly audio that we are going over. So I just appreciate you being here. You guys all are thebomb.com. Alrighty, let's keep going.
The police department smoking near the bushes, and everyone's like, we can see the smoke billowing out of the bushes, Mr. Zabrowski. Can you please just leave?
No, I can't see me. That's what the smoke is there for, so you only see the smoke. Sorry, sir, you have to leave. Yeah, but that's how bad the LAPD was at the time.
I see.
Was that they were so bad that cops within it were trying to frame the police department
Right.
crimes just to stop them.
Yeah, this is,
This is it sounds like Canton. I actually want to show, I'm going to pull up a picture of Henry he was in The Wolf of Wall Street with Leonardo DiCaprio. So I'm going to pull up a picture and I'll show that in just a second.
Just after the
thanks,
Rodney
Ro-Ro.
King riots and all that kind of stuff, right? This
About 6-7 years after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're talking around. Yeah, we're talking maybe 5 years after that. But when the story really started coming up, that was like late 90s.
All right.
And actually, like Paul, like R.I.P. He just died, I think, last year. He later came up with a different theory, but his original theory is partly and poorly laid out in the aforementioned Nick Broomfield documentary, Biggie and Tupac.
Okay.
And the theory is, like all conspiracy thought, complicated beyond comprehension.
Right.
Long story short, Poole followed the evidence to a point where a theory involving the LAP could be formulated, but once he got that theory stuck in his head, he tried to force the evidence to fit his narrative, ignoring
And we
anything
know-
contradictory.
And we know that is not a good way to try and solve a case.
It's a great story, though.
It's a great
which
story.
is the reason why he did it. And the coincidences in it are like, holy shit, you can't
Right.
make this stuff up. But but it was wrong. It was still just coincidences, which is obviously the thing about all conspiracy theories, that there's just enough
Right.
to keep you going when it's good.
Yeah, so instead of like following the evidence and going where the evidence took him, he wanted to take the evidence where he wanted to put it.
Exactly, yeah. And I've heard a cop say, like, there's no coincidence in homicide. Like, well, I don't know.
Why not?
The one story that really made me rethink, like, the concept of coincidence.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Henry from when he was on the Wolf of Wall Street. So we'll just leave that up for a second.
Is Mark David Chapman.
Sure.
When you look at how many coincidences came up in that story,
Yeah.
I know.
it really does make you believe.
Well, and KCG, I just lost your comment, but a lot of the people like involved now are dead. So like that is even the kind of the crazier part.
It's like, well, sometimes the world just creates roadblocks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, the reason why, like
Yes,
Henry
thanks,
said, the reason
Grandma.
why they, Poole followed the story is because the story
I'm
is so
almost to my
compelling.
watch hours.
According to that, Biggie Smalls was murdered under the order of Suge Knight in retaliation for Tupac's death by an LAPD officer named David Mack in conjunction with a Nation of Islam member named Amir Muhammad.
Okay.
What?
Now, David Mack is a crazy character to begin with anyway, because that was a cop that was robbing fucking banks. There was like that whole Rampart story's nuts.
Yeah.
He was robbing banks as a cop?
He was robbing banks as a cop. He did what was one of his heists, like 750,000.
Wow.
He was serious.
Because he used his cop smarts to realize when to go pick up the money from the bank. Because you have to wait because the bank purges cash after a period of time. So you have to wait till it's
okay. So speaking of which, I know this is kind of off subject, but it's about a movie about robbing banks and kind of this subject. If you guys have, I think it's Netflix. There's a movie called, what's it called? The Outlaws or something. It's Adam Devine, Pierce Brosnan. Spacing on the other bitch's name. The mom/wife's name. But it's really funny. Okay.
peek and go get it like a butt.
Interesting.
So we will get to. I forget who Marcus names, but he pretty much names who is more or less known for pulling the trigger. So we will definitely get there.
So he used his cop sense. He used his cop smarts, very similar to pig sense. when we talk about pig sense, who was the guy who had pig sense?
Robert Pickton.
Robert Pickton. Robert Pickton's pig sense, and this cop's.
You have the memory of a goldfish.
Thank you.
Is it the booze?
No, I swim a lot.
Didn't somebody say yesterday that we had memories of a goldfish? I think it was the one gluten tootin'.
No, I don't know. No. We cover so much. We cover so much. And honestly, goldfish, they have a 3-second memory, but what else? That's all they need. Yeah. Theoretically, it keeps them happy and alive in those little fish tanks.
So you're excited for dementia.
Because
you feel like that's when you'll finally be released. You'll finally be at ease.
Make them up.
So furthermore, David Mack was a cop that was a part of a broader contingent, according to Poole, within the LAPD that was on Suge Knight's payroll. So according to Russell Poole, like there were a ton of cops that were on the death row payroll. And all of this was coming on the heels of a major LAPD corruption case involving the aforementioned anti-gang crash unit. That scandal was known as Rampart.
Okay.
And add to that just the general distrust and disdain people have
Marcus goes way too deep sometimes.
after the LAPD due to very public incidents that usually involved race in some way or another, and suddenly Poole's theory started to sound pretty reasonable.
Sure.
But it didn't sound reasonable to the LAPD.
Well, naturally. They're the ones who are accused of doing the crime. That's the least stunning piece of information I have ever heard in my entire life.
They were doubtful?
They were doubtful that they
about his theory?
And so Poole was taken off the case.
Okay.
They're like, we can't have this. He's blaming us. We can't have this.
And this actually served the opposite purpose for the LAPD because this attracted more attention to Poole's theory, and it particularly attracted the attention of Biggie's mother, Valletta Wallace.
So this is your obstruction of justice case against the LAPD on Mr. Poole there.
Yeah. And so Valletta Wallace used the evidence Poole had gathered to bring a wrongful death suit against the LAPD, suing the department for Biggie's estimated lifetime earnings, which sat at a cool $500 million.
Woo! Holy hell.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the LAPD did not want to fucking...
And if I'm wrong, like that was back in the 90s. That was way more.
They did not want to give up $500 million because that's a lot of Donkey Kong arcade games, which is what they have in a lot of the lunchrooms in police departments. Because that's where I remember from my father's police department. That's where I would go. Take your son to work day, and he just put me in.
Okay, so this, like I said, Henry's humor is not for everybody. Hey, Southern gal, I have something to say to you. I just want you to know.
I like biscuits.
I like biscuits. Okay.
In the lunchroom, and I play Donkey Kong all day.
Wow. Well, what a life lesson that is.
Yep.
Well, needless to say, as soon as this $500 million lawsuit came through, the LAPD started paying attention.
I don't know if I like this idea of police officers taking their son to work day. Like, just imagine being a perp getting cuffed and then just a little...
I know. Okay, so Henry's dad was NYPD. Hey, Truthy. Yes, Tucker is the man. He was so funny. Do I have any more Tucker clips? I don't think so. Oh, I just have this one. I mean, this one's always a good one.
You will. I lost my dignity on a slippery wiener.
Okay, so Henry's dad was NYPD. And I mean, this is Henry from when he was in Wolf of Wall Street. Okay, so picture like a tiny little Henry. My thing's naked. Hold on. Okay, here we go.
7-year-old Henry Zabrowski be like,
What'd you do?
why?
Was it murder?
No, I'm not.
You ever think that maybe when you go to jail that someone's gonna poke you in the back stairs?
God damn it. Can we just get this over with?
What'd you do? Was it murder?
No, it's true. I got to shoot a gun.
You did?
Yeah, we went to
good.
the range. My dad had to qualify. It was like it worked with the same time. My dad had to go. He had to qualify because you have to qualify to get your license every year. And he had to qualify, and he took me to the range, and I shot a gun. And then we went to my favorite comic book store, The Web. I still remember that as being the favorite day of my childhood.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, after the LAPD started paying attention, that's when they assigned Detective Greg Kading to solve the
Greg
case.
Kading.
Now,
And he's saying it like that because he's the guy that wrote the book. He's the guy that wrote the book that he basically is sourcing. Yes, Brittany was my fucking favorite. She said some of the funniest things, I feel like in Big Brother history. Okay, so Greg Kading gets assigned to the case.
Spoke a little bit last episode. Operation Wrap It Up was actually a sub-file of the overall operation to catch Biggie's murderer, which was Operation Transparency.
Okay. All very cool names, I have to say.
Great
So far,
names.
Rampart? Is that so? It's Operation Rampart?
Well, no, Rampart was the name of the police station that was caught up in the scandal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and later made into a movie starring Woody Harrelson, which resulted in a weird Reddit thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, very good.
Now, as far as the public knew, Operation Transparency had one
Yes, I believe he wrote the book Murder Rap. And if you just heard a creak, it was my chair.
job: solve the murder of Biggie Smalls. But really, the LAPD cared about something different altogether.
Uh-oh.
Cover our asses.
That's not
Operation-
transparency at all.
Yeah, Operation Overalls.
But in the process
That's not transparency at all.
trying to solve the Biggie Smalls murder, Kading ended up blowing the lid off everything, revealing a tale of treachery, hubris, and above all, careless disregard.
Which is another thing, too, man. Greg Kading was also such a good cop, but also kept him from being a cop anymore. All
Right.
these guys investigating the LAPD eventually quit
Hey, Truth Seeker. I hope you're doing good.
because they were like,
Oh, thanks,
this
Southern Cal.
place sucks.
Wow. All right. Interesting. So he ended up not following through, huh? They didn't allow him to?
Well, we'll have to see how
All right.
let's see how the story
Yes,
unfolds.
let's see how the story unfolds.
Well, first, Kading had
Let's see how the story unfolds.
to debunk Poole's theory, which was actually fairly easy to do.
Okay.
Poole had relied heavily on uncorroborated statements from jail informants who were quickly discredited. Half the evidence didn't match up, and the sinister Nation of Islam member, Amir Muhammad, he was just a mortgage broker named Harry Billups, who just happened to be the accused LAPD cop's college roommate.
Okay. I feel like more times than not, jailhouse informants are not telling the truth.
It is very, very sad.
Yeah.
So Harry Billups, known as Amir Muhammad, went to go visit David Mack in jail. And what happened was that so he went there and they were hanging out and it was fine, a normal visit. But at some point, Russell Poole is just going through context. And the thing about jailhouse confessions is that they'll say anything.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they'll say anything. They don't give a shit. They got nothing to lose.
And so it was the guy's like, check it. I got news on the murder of Biggie Smalls. And Russell Poole's like, tell me all about it. I'm sorry, that's the Nick Broomfield voice, and so that's what I'll do. Tell me all about it. He's like, yeah, check it. And the thing is, you got to get me a TV, man. You got to get me a TV. He's like, okay, whatever you need. Some Slim Jim.
Also, this is not an actual transcript of what happened. This is Henry just being funny.
Yeah. Some Slim Jims. Yeah, that'd be good too, man. Yeah. It's like, whatever it takes to crack the unsolved murder of Biggie Smalls. And then in truth, he said, yeah, I know the shooter. His name is, I think it's Aman? Amir? Mahan? And he just named like 3 things that sort of sounded like Amir. And then when he came up showing that he visited David Mack, they're like, this is the guy. And then it ruined Harry Billups' life, who wasn't he a mortgage broker?
He was a mortgage broker.
Oh, my God. He might as well have just talked to you when it was bring your son to work day.
So, mortgage broker, nothing to do with anything having to do with gangs.
Good Lord.
I did the crime.
That is.
All he's doing is trying to broker mortgages. He gets wrapped up in this shit.
Unbelievably sad, though, that this random dude just got pulled into this thing unbeknownst to him entirely?
Entirely. It was all based on like he was just going to see his old buddy.
Jeez.
And after that, like Paul just ran with it, and yeah.
Yeah, that's true, Cheese. You do have everything to lose in jail if you get caught telling. That could end very bad.
Billups did come out and say, like, this whole thing has ruined my life completely. I think there was a lawsuit involved.
I hope he got some money.
Yeah, I think he got a little bit.
Okay.
So even though very little of the original murder investigation was actually useful to Kading, the task force was not starting from square one. They also had access to a federal racketeering investigation against Death Row, which had ran from 1995 to 2001.
Wow.
Unfortunately,
racketeering.
Like hundreds of other FBI cases, the Death Row case was scuttled following the events of September 11th and was completely abandoned.
Hold on, Marcus. You're telling me...
Okay, hold on. Cheese, was Death Row, was Biggie in Death Row, or Biggie, I keep calling him Biggie, was Puff Daddy Death Row Records? Hey, Grandma, sorry, Grandma, I know you've been here. I hope you feel better, you are good, we got this, you lay down. I know, another Rico case. Okay, she says no. Okay.
It was scuttled?
Yeah. It was...
Okay, but also, sorry, I also wanted to talk about, like, how crazy it is, how many, I feel like investigations just kind of fell onto the wayside because of September 11th, just because so many resources got allocated to that. Whew.
Scuttled like a bunch of crabs.
Wow.
Because that's what crabs do. That's what a crab movement in a group is called, a scuttle.
I didn't realize that. I learn something new every day that I will quickly forget. So 9/11, actually, in a strange way, obviously that was the biggest crime in the country.
Yes.
So that actually kind of saved their ass.
It saved hundreds of people's asses because when all of these investigations that were going on in the FBI, as soon as 9/11 happened, all of their resources got reallocated. So all of these criminals who have been sweating bullets, we're very thankful for September 11th.
Good thing.
I know, like, imagine being happy that happened. I would not want to be in that situation. So yes, Cheese, Snoop Dogg now owns Death Row Records, probably because, well, Dr. Dre's still alive. I was gonna say, is it Suge in prison? Is he still in prison? Tupac's obviously not with us anymore.
You remember,
strange thing to
a
think
good
about.
thing to remember about this investigation is that most of this is happening 10 years after the fact,
Yeah,
right? Like
right,
10 years. So also remember, they're piecing all of this shit together
Hey, Zero Jules, I hope you're doing well.
afterwards, where it's like every single time Greg Kading's pulling out another file, because it's very interesting because of the implications of Russell Poole, which you'll find out in Murder Rap. All of the files that were put together as the investigation that Russell Poole did, like 4 huge binders of information about these were given to the Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs held on to this shit, and Greg Kading had to wait for them to photocopy this shit. So it took months of
Really?
him pulling out this stuff bit after bit, and he gets the next file, and he's like, holy shit, they've been investigating them for racketeering for 6 years? And he didn't know.
Could have used that information before.
Actually, I don't think it was 4. I think it was 72 gigantic binders.
Wow.
Like it was they showed a picture of all of the boxes that these things were in, and it was just a gigantic process.
Okay.
Now, because of the slow pace of the investigation, because he was only getting
Hey,
a few
Mr.
things at a
Nobody.
time, it took Kading and his team 2 years to get their first real break. And that break came in the form of a man named Dwayne Keith Davis, a.k.a. Keefy D, described by one informant as the president of the Southside Crips.
Keefy D. So he's the one that got recently arrested in connection to Tupac's murder. Okay.
Now, Keefe was actually a major player, being one of the people responsible for taking the Crips from a Los Angeles local to the nationwide criminal enterprise with chapters in every American city that it eventually became. But the reason why Kading wanted to talk to Keefe was because Keefe was one of only a handful of people that were present at both the murder of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls.
He was at both of them. Keefe wanted to talk to Kading and Keefing. Keefing Kitty.
He is the Vince McMahon of the Crips. He brought it full nationwide. Yeah, definitely took over a lot of areas, perhaps angered a lot of people while doing it. Vince McMahon, by the way, he is muscle milk come to life. That is what that man is.
He is a lot of veins
Yes.
and vocal cords. That's really all he is. I see, for Keefy D, the first thing I thought was a Suzanne Summers.
What do you
and
mean?
It was like the Crips were his
Okay. This is kind of funny.
thigh master, and he gave it all over the world.
That is, okay.
Again, I'm bringing it to things I understand.
Yeah, no,
I just was thinking about the thigh master for some reason.
That Thigh Master, my mother had one. It was very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
And I was trying to do it as a child, a very overweight child, and it sprung up and it hit me in the face.
I know. Whose mom had a thigh master? My mom definitely had one growing up. Those things were crazy.
That was horrible. I never did that again.
Well, all Kading needed was a way to make Keefe talk, and he did that with a gallon of liquid PCP.
Get
a
out
lot
of
of
here.
people will talk if you do a gallon of PCP.
Wait, is this? What do you mean? Is this guy?
Okay. Yeah. So it may be a trigger for some if you have sorry, I was just reading. Jesus. KVD is a legend. Okay, so this may be triggering to anybody, so just viewer discretion advised.
He's a police officer with the LAPD, right?
Well, working in conjunction with the DEA, Kading used an informant named Dirt Rock to set up a fake buy. Now, the deal went off without a hitch, but a few days later, Kading, flanked with DEA agents, showed up at Keefe's house and laid out all the evidence they had on the deal, which was enough to put away Keefe for life.
I have a question for our listeners. Can someone tell me if you have casually used PCP? Why?
I don't think you can.
And what does it do that's good? I want to know what's good, because they talk about a lot of these guys made their living selling PCP and weed, and it's like I don't really understand the desire to do just PCP on its own. But I don't know if it's like if you do it at low levels, is it fun?
I don't know. I dated a girl for a long time who had like a 2-year PCP habit before we got together, and she was never really able to fully explain to me. Like, I think she was just like, "It's stars."
Yeah, it doesn't sound very fun. I watched one thing on the drug wars.
I didn't even, I forgot about PCP. I feel like it was like a 90s thing, and I haven't heard about it since.
On maybe National Geographic, and they dip it in the cigarettes. That's
Yeah.
usually how you take it.
Yeah,
and no one looked to be like super thrilled. They were naked like pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
But they didn't look to be happy.
It's called getting wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting wet.
Yeah, that's what this was for. Keefe D was buying the gallon of liquid PCP. It was like $10,500.
Yeah, a hell of a lot of PCP.
It was enough to put him away forever.
Wow.
But then they told Keefe there was actually a way out of all this. And when Keefe asked how, Kading said,
Let me put it this way. We're homicide investigators. Wink.
Wink, wink, wink,
Wink,
wink, wink, wink, wink,
Am I just extremely high on PCP, or are you winking like a bunch?
wink, wink, wink. I'm saying wink, but I physically can't wink because I have to keep my eyes open all the time because I'm investigating the murder of Biggie Smalls.
I don't know what they call it up here. Like I said, I haven't heard about PCP in a while. And I always, when I hear PCP, I think of ICP, which is Insane Clown Posse.
You just said that.
Get to it.
Well, actually, they left without telling him what murder it was they were actually investigating.
Okay.
They just left it hanging like, we're homicide investigators.
Right.
And then they left.
But so
That just reminds me of Phoebe. Homicide.
I'm just gonna. But there was just a gallon of PCP that the LAPD just kind of let loose.
The DEA.
Oh, yeah.
But they just let that go. They're
They
like,
got it back.
They got it back in small petty arrests that was sort of
Have some
ruining
fun
lives.
with
Okay,
it.
all right, makes a lot of sense.
Come on, buddy.
Yeah, that's when people are like, there's no way the
on,
CIA
come
introduced
on.
crack. This happens all the time. In this case, it was a gallon of PCP.
I know, a gallon. I picture a water jug. That's yikes.
That they were just like, that's collateral damage in the murder of Biggie and Tupac.
Yeah, you could definitely see like Keith E.D. and Kading outside talking, and then his other buddy, like Swamp Thing, his friend, like with the big barrel of it, just being like, "So I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna hide this."
Well, less than an hour after Kading left, Keefe's attorney called and said Keefe was ready to talk.
And talk a lot. Because once again, he's not. No, I know he's not high off PCP. He's selling the stuff.
Yeah, he's selling the stuff. But Kading let Keefe sweat for like a month. Like, they didn't come back for a while because they wanted him to wonder, like, which murder is it that they want to talk about?
Sure,
like, what
yeah.
like, what is this? What's going to be going on?
You know you have an interesting life when you're like, oh, I know they're
Which
homicide
murder?
detectives, and you have to do a mental Rolodex of everyone.
Which one? Which murder could it be? Have I murdered? Like,
Have I
you sit there and be like, I don't
Have I done a murder before? Have I murdered?
even know if I've
Is this my life?
murdered. Oh man.
Internal wink, 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 wink.
And then, at their next meeting, Kading revealed the focus of his investigation, Biggie Smalls. To this, Keefe said he didn't know anything about that murder, but what he did know, in
He didn't know anything about that murder. Okay.
Keefe's words, was gonna blow Kading's fucking mind.
All right.
And when Keating asked him to
shit.
elaborate, Keefe said, that one wasn't us.
And he was like, "What?
Yeah.
You're fucking with me, dude."
I just picture him giving back the.
I fucking love Henry.
Kading's fucking mind.
All right.
And when Keating asked him to elaborate, Keefe said, that one wasn't us.
And he was like, "What?
Yeah.
You're fucking with me, dude."
I just picture him giving back the gallon of PCP to Kading, just similar to the Naked Gun when he's bribing the guy and the guy is bribing him back.
Oh yes, back and forth.
And so, in trying to solve the Biggie case, Kading accidentally found a new lead in the long since abandoned case of Tupac Shakur.
Jeez.
Because that's the thing. The Las Vegas PD had done little to no investigative work on Tupac's murder.
Which is just crazy to me. This is like such
I know,
it
it's
was such
so rude. Like,
a huge case, and for them to just be like, we're sitting this one out. I
Dude,
never
it
understood
is the
that.
thing that we've seen again and again. It is it's the constant. Their thought process is that these
is there a documentary, Cheese? I'll have to look into it.
guys were gonna kill each other anyway. What do we give a shit?
Yeah.
They believe that these were gangster on gangster crimes.
Sorry. Kept hitting play pause. And that is like, I feel like the big thing is I feel like they felt like, oh, these problems just kind of took care of itself. You know, they'll just get rid of each other.
So they're like doing their job for them. So these men all died,
Yeah.
who had families and had a life and were just fucking artists. These guys were just artists.
Right.
They were dabbling in the life, but they were just guys making music, and they got murdered, and no one gave a shit.
Yeah, we can't
They were just turning poetry into musical art.
lose sight of that. These are artists here.
Yeah.
Sisterhood above
Oh, sorry. That's an ad. Let's
board your favorite
go through the ads.
serve it. So take internet
Sorry.
notice speeds lower than other
Every day. That's BetterHelp.
Okay.
Find a way?
Well, the truth of the matter is that it seemed like the Las Vegas Police Department never really gave a fuck about solving the murder in the first place.
All right.
But Kading sure as hell gave a fuck.
So
he
fucking
listened to Keefe's story.
But Kading gave a fuck, so he listened to Keefe's story.
This wasn't the first time Keefe had spoken to investigators. Years before, Keefe had claimed that he didn't have anything to do with Tupac's murder. He even pushed like a different theory altogether. He pushed another cop theory, but it was a slightly different one than Poole had put forth.
Okay.
Keefe had suggested that while it was still Compton police that pulled the trigger on Tupac, it was actually Suge who ordered the hit.
This is the dumbest theory of all of them.
This is the dumbest.
Hold up.
Suge, come on. We know that wouldn't. We knew that didn't happen.
This one? I thought that Suge.
This is the dumbest theory. Because a part of street code is, right, is that not only they don't snitch, but they'll just lie. They'll just say shit just to throw you off, which makes everything very, very difficult to piece together. But the idea is that Suge was afraid that Tupac was going to leave. Because the truth is that Tupac was trying to formulate his own little company. But the whole point was that him and his managers and his lawyers, they were going to try to extricate him from the death row contract because it was kind of like a weird little memo, friendly style with Suge, kind of the way that they worked it out with Eazy and Dr. Dre, where they figured out how, like, Eazy-E will always get paid no matter what. So essentially you massage it so we'll separate, but the money will still go back to you. So what they said is that Suge found out and he flipped out. So he ordered a hit against Tupac that would happen while Suge was in the car. And that he would get men that were just trained enough that they could shoot Tupac while driving past without hitting him.
Well, he's a big guy. He wears a lot of red. You know where not to shoot. I don't know.
I suppose so. But yeah, this is. This common sense tells you there are such easier ways for if Suge was going to actually order a hit on Tupac. There are so much simpler ways than to have guys fire 13 shots into a car that you're sitting in.
It's a smart.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
Move though. Why would I order the hit if I'm in the car? That's genius.
You get shot. You get shot.
Yeah.
But
I feel like there's a high chance that you would get shot, for sure.
Part of what happened. But I will say, I watched a very revealing documentary that was released a couple of months ago called Who Shot Biggie and Tupac with Ice-T and Soledad O'Brien.
Oh, yeah.
And they shot a bunch of mannequins. Because the whole point was to show how stupid the theory was. So they had a marksman shoot bad. Because they talked about how, obviously you'd have to be, the first thing he did was, any angle that you hold your Glock, and the guy was trying to shoot like a gangster, doing the sideways thing. You shoot
like a gangster. Oh my god.
And I'm shoot at him, and then the whole time, it's the one gangster dude who was part of Tupac's detail was man pulled up as Nina, and Soledad O'Brien was
Nina.
And what the hell is a Nina? And Ice-T's a Nina's a nine, there's a gun, and then they slapped hands to each other because that's all Ice-T did for the most of the documentary was explain gang terms to Soledad O'Brien and look grimly on.
That's great. It's like what.
Oh my gosh, that is pretty funny. Just because Ice-T is the one in Law and Order, right? Didn't he always wear a bulletproof vest? I don't know.
Key is doing in those commercials now, where he explains different kind of language to different generations.
So even though Keefe had said that whole Suge Knight hired the fucking cops to kill Tupac because of disloyalty, even though he'd said all that years ago, he was now claiming that whole story was bullshit. And what follows now is the story of the murder of Tupac, with Keefe D filling in the blanks.
Okay, here we go, everybody.
So Keefe D came onto the Bad Boy record scene in the summer of 1995 when Biggie Smalls was touring as the headliner for the annual Summer Jam concert series. According to Keefe, Puffy hired a group of Crips to work security for the Anaheim and San Diego shows, paying them in free concert tickets.
Kind of your Rolling Stone, Hell's Angels moment.
Well, that's it. That's the whole thing, man. I mean, it's not like Puffy couldn't afford to hire real security, just like the Rolling Stones didn't have to hire the Hell's Angels for security at Altamont in exchange for $500 worth of beer. It just made him.
Although, I mean,
$500 worth of beer. So, Puff Daddy got the Crips. Is that what they said?
It just made him feel cool.
Right.
But there were a couple of things here. Number one, which I thought was really interesting, it was customary for East Coast rappers to have to pay a tribute to various LA gangs when you came into town. So a lot of what people said, eventually people were trying to avoid even coming to LA because you have to pay 30 grand just to play for the Crip. Basically, a gang would be like, this is our security fee. It's 30 grand. We'll make sure everything's okay. We'll make sure people are safe. And he's just like, well, sir, I think we have our own security deal here. I don't think, thank you so much for the offer. We don't. He's like, well, how about just 30 grand so we don't fuck your shit up?
Yeah.
Right,
And
right,
so
right.
like that would
Yikes.
happen. And then also one thing Puff Daddy did do is that because of the burgeoning conflict between him and Suge, he hired and spoke to a section of the Crips that were specifically against the MOB Pyru crew. That was like a thing that caused a little bit of friction.
It's hard to understand all the factions here.
I know. I'm just getting lost with all these gang names and affiliate names and holy smokes.
It reminds me of the WCW NWO, the white NWO and the red NWO, or the black and white NWO and the red and black NWO.
It's like all the YouTube communities, right?
And I was really disappointed when Sting went over to the black NWO, but then he actually went over to the red NWO. But he should have just stayed with WCW.
Gotcha.
Anyway.
Don't understand. It is just as complicated
It is,
because I
though.
don't understand. The gang hierarchy and structure is very, very intense. And one day we'll do Bloods and Crips because it's a fascinating story that has like it goes back to the fucking 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
That is pretty wild.
Just like hiring the Hells Angels at Altamont resulted in the death of fan Meredith Hunter, Puffy's hiring of the Crips would have consequences that were even more far-reaching than that. See, the thing was, even though the Stones hired the Hells Angels, they weren't claiming to be Hells Angels.
Right, right.
Like, actually, they didn't even really know who the Hells Angels really were.
Yeah, I don't think like Mick Jagger's little bones rattling on a motorcycle, he would just fall apart.
I'll tell you, this is worse than a carriage going down downtown London. Like, yeah. So.
Yeah, the Stones were confusing the American Hells Angels with a bunch of British biker enthusiast posers who just called themselves the Hells Angels, who would work security at a concert in Hyde Park in London the year before.
Cheese has all
Do
the
your
facts,
due
y'all.
diligence.
Yeah,
That is what this means. Research what you're getting yourself involved in.
that's it. So they were used to drinking O'Doul's, and then they switched over to a huge keg of, what's the worst? Ice House.
Ice House, yeah.
Yeah.
No, they
I like Natty Ice.
That was just brutal.
Yeah, they didn't. The Rolling Stones did not know like how dangerous the Hells Angels in
thought they were-
America actually were. I mean, like
Right.
Jefferson Airplane had used them for security once. They said, "Oh, it went off without a hitch."
Okay.
But Altamont is also another one that we may do a story on, or at the very least, like concert disasters at large, because it's a fascinating story.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
still,
God,
like the Rolling
concert
Stones.
disasters. That Travis Scott one gave me nightmares for days.
It's like they were just trying to be cool. They didn't really know who they were dealing with.
Can we put Woodstock 99 and that Great White Fire in there?
We will.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
But Puffy, he knew exactly who he was hiring, and he knew exactly what hiring these guys meant.
I never drank Natty Ice. I just always remember seeing people drink it when I would visit Chico State. That's all they fucking drank.
Hiring them meant he was unofficially aligning himself with the gang, with the Crips.
This is the making the band.
So Diddy's aligning himself with the Crips because he's hiring them for security.
Puff Daddy.
That is the soundbite I need. Security.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
Yes.
And this was done in response to something Suge Knight had said. A couple of weeks earlier, Suge Knight had very publicly called out Puffy at the 1995 Source Awards while accepting the award for Best Motion Picture Soundtrack for Above the Rim.
Remember that?
But when Suge went up to accept the award, he did so with someone on his mind, Tupac Shakur. Because earlier that day, Suge had been in upstate New York visiting Tupac in prison. So Suge started his speech by pledging his support to Tupac. But remember, Tupac had been telling Suge from day one that Biggie and Puffy were behind the shooting at Quad City that had occurred the day before Tupac had been sentenced.
Right.
Okay, so yes, that is what I was talking about. I didn't know if we had already gotten to. So Quad City Studios, there was Tupac was attacked, and he believes that Biggie and Diddy were behind it.
That could be why Suge said this.
And one other thing I'd like to say, any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the records.
Oh,
dancing.
shit.
Come to Death Row.
He's throwing shade at Diddy because he was always in the background doing something.
That was a lot like when Robert De Niro had his bold stance against President Donald. But I remember that. That was like crazy. Wasn't there a riot after that? Didn't that break out?
No,
that wasn't that.
Well, people freaked out in the audience because people started going nuts.
He says,
man, Suge's so big.
He's so big. That was but that was a huge. That made it all the way to Stevens Point, Wisconsin. That speech, and we're like, that's really interesting. That's really cool. And then again, I'm like, they're probably still friends.
Yeah, admittedly, Suge Knight.
I know, isn't it weird? You think they're probably still friends. You don't think that eventually one's gonna try and murder the other.
I was not wrong on this. I mean, Puffy did indeed insert himself into everything.
Every video.
Annoyingly so. But Suge said this not just in front of the entire hip-hop community, but in New York City on Puffy's home turf.
Uh-oh.
Which is also what got Tupac Shakur harassed in the first place by Haitian Jack, because you're talking mess in the other guy's territory. Like, you don't do that shit. Like Haitian Jack, who is still alive.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he's still alive, and he says he had nothing to do with it. But the guy who did it called him and said, "I did this without your permission," and he was just like, "No, oh, why did you do this?"
So bad.
All right.
Now, Suge hadn't threatened any violence here, but he had a way about him where he didn't really need to.
No.
To put it simply, Suge had a reputation, and that reputation scared the ever-loving shit out of Puffy. See, Death Row had long since allied themselves completely with the Bloods, despite Snoop Dogg's previous connection to the Crips. And the Bloods, specifically the Mob Piru, acted as Suge Knight's enforcers. And that's a big reason why Puffy decided to hire the Crips to act as their personal security at the Summer Jam's California dates.
So it was kind of like marking the territory. He was drawing a line in the sand, so to speak. Hey, Sunday Doodles, how are you?
Suge Knight was a character on Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse.
He was
He would
always
just
in
be
the
the
videos.
refrigerator, and every time you open it up, he was like, "I'm going to kill you," and then you have to shut it immediately. He was huge. He was like such a big. His shoulders are the big. Anthony Mason of the New York Knicks, R.I.P. Anthony. He and Suge have the same size shoulders, and they were the biggest. Anthony's were the biggest I've ever seen in my life. I passed him on the street.
Suge Knight was an NFL defensive end.
Yeah, huge.
A gigantic man. And with this, the East Coast-West Coast rivalry now had actual gang affiliations right in the middle of the bloodiest gang war this country had seen since Prohibition.
Wow.
But these guys are playing with fire, of course, right? Obviously, they're playing with
So each side had their own gang.
fire. But the connections are. Remember when we say all these things, and a lot of people will read these in books too and talk about like them being really connected to these gangs. The gang connection's really nebulous. It's more like they invited them into their house like a vampire. Like they invited them in to being like, we're going to make you a part of our scene. And the problem is that when you have a bunch of people that are really, truly criminals, these people are actually uncontrollable.
Right.
You're just now letting chaos go. And these guys are going to mix how they're going to mix. And now you act like you think you can control them,
Right.
which is we're going to find out is the biggest problem of all.
So would you say this is the biggest mistake? The actual aligning themselves.
Yeah, because you can't control those bitches. Like, could you imagine trying to control actual gang members?
With these very legitimate people. Did Suge know? I mean, he had to know how serious these guys are, right? Like Suge.
Well, Suge was something completely because that's the thing is that Suge was serious. Suge was was an actual he was a criminal. Like he knew exactly what he was doing. He had come up more in that world, and he was good at it.
Right.
Puffy, on the other hand, was not quite the same type of person.
No, Puffy
but I mean, because really, you say like
Puffy was having freak off parties, I guess, during this.
Puffy was the nicer one. Like
He was on what was it? TL? No, what's the name of it? Total Request Live. He was on TRL with Carson Daly.
Yeah, I mean, he co-hosted Regis and Kelly. Every once in a while. He was the guy that brought hip hop into the mainstream.
Yeah,
like
well,
he was the one that did.
He was the nice one that the Midwest could digest.
He was the one that he had the smooth style. Like it wasn't funky. It was very smooth. So Puffy was really playing with fire and had no idea what the fuck he was doing, or at least he thought he knew he did, but he did not.
Right.
Now, Puffy,
and he was doing other things. He was clearly busy with his own what do they call it? I'll think of the word. But he's clearly busy with the other things he was doing.
after hiring the Crips, he started flexing a little.
Just before prior engagements, that's what I was trying to think of.
Before Biggie's show in Anaheim, just a couple of weeks after the Source Awards diss, Puffy allegedly told a room full of Crips that he'd give anything for the head of Suge Knight. He just starts throwing this shit out there.
Oh,
now, it
shit,
doesn't really
anything?
seem like Puffy was really serious with this threat at that point. But then the Jake Robles murder happened in Atlanta, and Suge publicly blamed Robles' death on one of Puffy's bodyguards. Now, Puffy completely denies having anything to do with the murder, even pointing out that he was standing right next to Suge Knight when it happened, because he was.
So Puffy is just acting like Prince Nottingham right now. Just be like, bring me his head, but he's like, that's a very serious request, I think.
It's way more similar to the Cousin Eddie moment from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, where he would Chevy chases
wrapped in a nice little
bow. He's like, all right, like it is that.
Okay, Cheese has another correction for us.
Well, it didn't matter whether or not Puffy had anything to do with the murder of Jake Robles. All that mattered was that Suge believed Puffy was behind it.
Right.
And that murder was partly why Tupac released Hit 'Em Up on June 4th, 1996. Now, up until that point, hip-hop artists didn't really openly threaten each other with violence on diss tracks. And they certainly didn't threaten each other with murder.
Right.
Most of the time, it's like it'd be an attack on the other person's cred, maybe a few jokes about their appearance, followed by a couple of homophobic insults,
right,
and that'd be the end of it. But Hit 'Em Up was different. It was violent.
It was different. It was different. It was different.
Beat him as a little bitch.
Specific and very, very personal. Before the beat even starts, Tupac just comes right out and says,
"That's why I fucked your bitch, you fat motherfucker."
Whoa,
This doesn't even rhyme.
Sign up for a roast. This is not what I'm supposed to be involved in. I've not prepared any material, so
roast mode.
It's just like fuck, like that was right up top.
And that is it's also very indicative of how huge Suge Knight was. Like everyone was just like, must have been talking about Mr. Knight there because it's only one. Or no,
Biggie.
Biggie rather. I'm sorry, that's indicative of how big Biggie was. Yes.
Yeah, and Tupac saying "I fucked your bitch," that was in reference to Biggie's wife, Faith Evans, who had collaborated with Tupac on a track the year before, and it only got more aggressive from there. Throughout the song, Tupac made it
No, Summer, I love most of Tupac and Biggie songs.
very clear that this was not just talk.
Can I just? Isn't the music video? Did we mention the music video? Isn't it just a big guy pretending to be Notorious B.I.G. and they just beat him up throughout the entire video?
Well, he just kind of looks like a fool because that was pretty common in hip hop videos as well. It's like if you're talking shit about the guy, you usually hire a guy to look like the guy you're making fun of, and then you kind of chase him around, and it's and it's actually most of the times pretty goofy.
Right.
Like they did that with I think they had an Eazy-E impersonator for the Dre Day video.
Yeah, they got a little guy. They got a little guy to play Eazy-E, and then they chase him around like Benny Hill. It's funny. It's like a silly little moment.
Yeah,
that's what they did with Bret Hart after the Montreal Screwjob on Monday Night Raw. They brought out a little person to be Bret Hart. That's funny.
Well, this was completely different. This could not be taken in any way as lighthearted.
Okay.
It was aggressive. Now, throughout the song, Tupac made it very clear that this was not just talk. He even made sure to explicitly say this was not a rap battle. The plan is to kill you. And he called out Biggie, Puffy, and Bad Boy at Large by name. Now, violence against rap lyrics is not new. I mean, it's a big part of it, but usually the violence had been broad and vague. It's more of like a generalized character building thing. With this, though, Tupac was making specific threats. He even devoted the last minute and a half of the song to just talking. And the more he talked, the angrier he got. And eventually, he landed on this.
Okay.
All of y'all motherfuckers, fuck you, die slow, motherfucker.
Okay. FYI, viewer discretion advised. No kids. Put your AirPods in or your headphones.
Fofo, make sure all y'all kids don't grow. You motherfuckers.
Which was seen as pretty aggressive.
I think I understand.
You know what
why.
I'll say? It's almost nice because him dying slow, he can say like goodbye to his family.
Sure.
He has like a couple of last moments. He could throw out one last final rap.
Yeah.
To everyone, so it's great. It's nice, actually.
Yeah, if he was like the witch from the movie Thinner, where he was just like he just cursed him, and it took about 3 months before he inevitably evaporated into the earth. But obviously, that's not what happened.
Yeah, and
I know. How fucked up does that? I hope all your kids don't grow.
that's only a small part of that ending rant. But this also begs a question. How serious was Tupac?
How serious was
How serious was
Tupac?
he?
Was he really going to kill anyone?
Was he really going to kill anyone?
Or
Very good.
was this just the next logical lyrical evolution in the game that these dudes were playing?
That's a long That's too long of a question for me to repeat.
Well, Tupac got real serious, and they were like his whole crew, him and the Outlaws, were very, very.
No, Summer. Honestly, like I feel like that shit it's therapeutic to be able to like yell that shit in your car, you know? I'm with you.
Very serious. They were threatening violence quite a bit. They were all carrying Ninas. Everybody was ready to go. They were ready to he was, and to the point where Snoop Dogg was afraid of him. That whole story where they took the plane over and like Snoop Dogg had accidentally hung out with a bunch of East Coast guys.
Okay, how true is this, Cheesy?
Yeah.
And Tupac found out and he was furious, and so Snoop Dogg had to hide under a blanket with a fork and knife. That he was waiting for Tupac to come get him in his sleep.
Yeah.
God, I love Snoop. I'm so happy that Snoop is still with us.
I'm so happy.
His YouTube channel is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I mean, they'd taken it even further than that because they were on a private jet from New York to L.A., and they took Snoop Dogg's security away from him. They're like, no, they're not going with you. You're going on this
He was an actor from Juilliard.
plane right now. You're coming with us.
Oh, my God.
And yeah, he sat there just hiding with a knife and fork, just waiting for someone to attack him.
All right.
But,
I can see like being super high and paranoid and like under a blanket, like, I dare you to come after me.
But you just really have to wonder, like,
I also do think, I just picture Chris Christie during Bridgegate doing the exact same thing. Just like caught there with a knife and fork. These are the only weapons I know how to use.
Also, I feel maybe if I just hold the knife and fork, the meatball will show up.
And I honestly, I love like the little friendship him and Martha Stewart have now. It is, I don't know why, but I just love it.
Gotcha, Chris Christie. Piece of shit.
I mean, and there were other, like, smaller, like, specific, like, West Coast over to East Coast diss tracks. Like the Dog Pound did a video in which, and there was like a bit of gunfire exchange there. Like the Dog Pound came to New York to shoot a video, and it was called New York, New York, and it was supposed to be more of a tribute to New York. Like it was respectful, but they were shooting a part of the video in Red Hook in Brooklyn, and shots rang out. Someone took some shots at him, and so what they ended up doing is coming back to Los Angeles and doing it all on green screen, where the Dog Pound, including Snoop Dogg, were all gigantic Godzillas, and they were like knocking down all the buildings in New York City.
That's a fun idea.
That's cute.
It's a great song, and it's a really fun video. But Hit 'Em Up took that further. Like that took it up to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they're just pretending.
And then every time I hear the name Martha, I think of that movie Ladybugs with Rodney Dangerfield and Jonathan Brandis. Martha.
Like they're the monsters from the Rampage, the video game.
Yeah.
And then Tupac actually is just going into great detail about how he's going to kill Biggie.
Yeah, exactly. And because of that, according to Keefy D, like Puffy wasn't going to take the chance that Tupac was serious or not, or at least he didn't want to appear to take that chance. See, besides just being the facilitator of the Crips hire, Keefy D and Puffy were friends. They were introduced by a New York drug dealer named Zip, who owned a nightclub in Harlem called the Zip Code.
A Zip.
Cool. I love
It does sound like he's sound. Hey guys, name's Zip. Good to meet you. How's everybody doing today? This is my buddy, the Hound Dog.
That's so funny. That's what I was thinking.
a little morning zoo style.
But Keefe D was an L.A. guy, and just about every time Puffy went to L.A., the two met at lunch at Greenblatt's Diner over near the Laugh Factory on Sunset Boulevard.
They were lunchers. They did lunch together.
But as the years went by, their conversations became more and more dominated by the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. And after Hit 'Em Up was released, complete with a music video to make sure it got attention, the conversation got serious. And Keefe D said that Puffy explicitly offered him $1 million to kill Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur.
Is he Dr. Evil?
Okay, let's replay that real quick.
It got attention.
Right.
The conversation got serious. And Keefe D said that Puffy explicitly offered him $1 million to kill Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur.
Okay, so Keefe D said that Puff Diddy, Puff Daddy, P Diddy, Puffy, whatever the hell his name is, $1 million. Oh, all right.
Is he Dr. Evil?
Yes. $1 million. Oh, I miss it. I miss Vernon Troyer.
R.I.P.
But so tiny. But it's the Keefe D had to keep a straight face because they were talking about how he's like when he's offering it, they're sitting having this serious like, we gotta kill him. I'll give you $1 million to kill Suge fucking Tupac Shakur, and he's like, I would have done it for like 50 grand. Like it was just like, and Hugh's just like holding, like waiting to see if he follows up, and he's like, okay, I'll take $1 million.
Jeez, this is crazy. All happening right outside the Laugh Factory, a place of joy and no sadness at all because it's a Laugh Factory.
Yeah,
Laugh Factory.
Laugh
so that
Factory.
laughs are pressed every 5 seconds by a man who's paid 45 cents an hour.
It's cranking them out.
Now, there's speculation as to whether Puffy was serious here. Now, it could have just been more bravado, as in Puffy needed to look tough in front of his actual criminal friends.
It's like
and
a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, a wank, wank.
didn't actually expect Keefe D to kill Tupac and Suge.
I mean, they've been talking about it now. How long?
He's like, I didn't think he thought I was serious.
Has this conversation been going on?
This conversation's been going on for a while, but it didn't really get. I mean, it's going on maybe 3 years.
At some point, don't you just have to stop and be like, we're just joking, right? Like, you got to bring it back to like, okay, but we're not being serious here.
There were guys that were trying to say that to him. There was like, what you'll find out too is that in this is that there are a lot of guys that were like, this is just, you guys understand it. You guys are just kind of messing with this thing, but you're not real gangsters.
Yeah.
And but they were far away from them.
Right.
The people that were their direct crew, like the Outlaws, made Tupac feel like he was fucking invincible. And Puff, surrounding himself with these Crips, also was making him like really like they were playing a part, and it went too far. They were just sitting there, and it felt really good to sit and have like mafia conversations, or at the fucking deli like it's a Scorsese movie, and it's not.
But none of those
not
movies
feasible.
They never end well.
No.
Goodfellas has the most sad ending of maybe any movie of all time.
But whether Puffy was serious or not, Keefe D took him
I was like,
seriously.
Kiki D.
And so the word was out. Kill Tupac and Suge, make $1 million.
Oh, my God.
And here is where Tupac and Puffy were about to discover that while they may have been having a great time playing gangster, the guys that
Things were about to get real gangster.
they were surrounding themselves with were taking it very, very seriously. And that's where we'll pick up next time.
Right. Okay. Man, it's
Oh,
just
shit.
so sad because I want to see Biggie now. I want to see him like talking about the new chicken
Oh.
shell taco at Taco Bell.
He would've
I want
died.
to see him
Oh, man.
promoting like a great restaurants. Like he would have. Who knows
He
what he
would've
would have
been-
been doing?
He would have been the Colonel.
Yeah, he would just be like, oh my God.
He was not in when he died. He was only. So you got to remember these dudes.
I know, they're so young.
The one thing that we
So
always
young.
forget when
Right.
talking about these stories, these guys were 24 and 25 years old.
Yep.
That's it.
They only seem to old to us because we were 14.
Yeah.
And I was like, 10 years difference. Oh,
Yeah,
that
they were
is-
they
it's
were
just
young.
so sad.
Biggie Smalls was 24 years old. Tupac Shakur was 25 years
Oh,
old.
my God,
That's
These
so
guys were
sad.
so young. They
so
were
young.
fucking kids. They didn't know what they were doing. They weren't
I'm
paying
just saying-
attention. Like,
Sad.
don't get me wrong. Like, I hope nobody is thinking that we're like blaming these guys for their deaths or saying that it was or anything like that. We're absolutely not doing that.
No.
What we're saying is like these. Pay attention.
These
Like you
folks
got to
were-
pay attention to what's
Yeah.
going on around you.
I know. Watch who you surround yourself with, unless it's cheese.
Careful. We said this last episode. You have to be careful who you pretend to be.
Yeah.
Because you get exactly what you ask for in this life. This shit shows up. If you want to dabble in this kind of energy, you're gonna have to pay for it eventually. That's just how it is. Like no one gets away scot free unless you're Haitian Jack and you move to the Dominican Republic, and he seems to be fine. He's
Or
doing
Snoop Dogg.
really good.
Or Snoop Dogg. Now you're hanging out with Martha Stewart.
Oh, my
But
goodness.
man, oh man, I'm
Yes.
just glad that Tupac's still alive.
Yeah, that's
all
a good
of this
point.
shit.
Oh,
That's a
yeah.
good point. And we always, as we've said before, surround yourself with good people. But if you are doing stuff wrong, you can always change too.
Yeah.
It's never too late to change bad habits, and just because they should just be alive.
Yeah.
But
They should
anyway.
just
all
be
right. Well, very
alive.
interesting. You know what? There's a lot to this story.
Yeah.
I'm just
There is a
gonna say
lot.
that.
There's a lot to unpack. There's quite a bit, and we got one more part of it.
Yeah.
One
So
more
I hope you guys
part.
enjoy our conclusion because we've solved it. You're welcome.
We solved it by reading the book of the guy who solved it.
Right.
We solved it. You're welcome. Okay. I know. God. I'll have to do the math, but yeah, I was super young. But still listening to Tupac up through, my childhood and my life. It was big, especially California Love. That song at like homecoming dances, it was the shit. It was the shit. We were always blasting that. Okay. So let me remove this. Let me remove my overlay. But yes, like they said, we have one more episode of this to cover for this deep dive of the murders of Biggie and Tupac. I thank you guys for being here. I want to show you guys this cereal I just got because I'm really excited. I'm about to have a little snacky snack before bed. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Okay. It's called the Kelsey Mix cereal. So it's Reese's Puffs, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Lucky Charms mixed into one cereal. I'm kind of excited. Doesn't that look good? Just because, okay, so Lucky Charms, I feel like, yeah, you got the marshmallows, but the other ones, it reminds me of like dry cat food. I don't know why. So I feel like with the cinnamon toast and the Reese's Puffs, it'll like, make them a little better. Yes, I will finish the next part. I will try and do it this week, possibly this weekend. But yes, we will be finishing this soon. Yeah, Summer. I saw it was on Instacart delivery. I was like, oh no, I actually got it on Amazon. Scratch that. I got it on Amazon. But yeah, I'm about to get in on some of this shit. You like bananas and frosted flakes? Mystery says, I like both, but not together. Okay. Oh, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. So, as you've probably heard, I'm really close to my watch hours, so I feel like I am like at my watch hours. However, it's kind of stupid. You have to have a certain amount of hours within 365 days. And I've started posting videos more than a year ago. So every day my hours are kind of going away. So I'm going to try go live a little bit more often. Hopefully I can catch up and I can get maybe memberships. That's really kind of all I really want. I feel like the memberships are fun. The emojis, the little icons, Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for being here. I hope you have a good start to your week. If you have to work tomorrow, I have to work tomorrow. If not, have a great day off. If you do, have a great day work. If you're already in Monday, happy Monday. If you could, please hit the like on your way out. If you're replaying, thanks for replaying. And yes, like I said, I will be doing trivia again this week. So please, maybe I'll do a community post seeing what trivia you guys want to do next. So trivia soon. And then I think hopefully this week I'm also going to have SoFlo come up and do a live with me as well. Just us chatting. So make sure your notifications are on. And I hope you have a great rest of your night, evening, day, or afternoon. Thank you. Goodbye.
Can you hear the sound? Can't stop us now. We're not back in town, but what we're doing, things are about to change, it's evolution. Once you shake the ground, you feel it moving.